Hello, everyone. In 1975, Tom Jones walked onto a Las Vegas stage as a king, earning nearly $100,000 a week, wrapped in sequins, adored by screaming crowds. He was untouchable until one song changed everything. The applause died mid-note. The room turned hostile. Boos erupted. Drinks flew through the air. Security rushed the stage as panic spread. And before the music could finish, Tom Jones was physically dragged off stage while the crowd cheered his downfall. Cameras kept rolling, his confidence shattered in real time. For the next 6 months, he disappeared, chain-smoking alone, replaying that moment on loop, convinced his legendary career had just ended. This wasn't just a bad night, it was the moment fame turned on him. But the collapse of Tom Jones did not begin in Las Vegas. It began decades earlier in a coal-dust town called Pontypridd, Wales, where he was born as Thomas John Woodward on June 7, 1940. His childhood home at 57 Kingsland Terrace sat surrounded by coal mines in the Rhondda Valley, where the air carried smoke and dust every single day. His father worked brutal 12-hour shifts underground, returning home exhausted, barely earning enough to keep food on the table. Space inside the house was so tight that young Tommy shared a bed, wore hand-me-down clothes, and learned early that comfort was a luxury meant for other families. At just 12 years old, his fragile world stopped completely. Doctors found tuberculosis in his left lung, a diagnosis that terrified Britain at the time. Because his condition was not contagious, he wasn't sent away. Instead, he was confined to his bedroom for 2 full years. No school, no friends, no outside life. So he listened. Late at night, he absorbed American blues and rhythm and blues voices through the radio. Artists like Big Bill Broonzy shaping his soul without him realizing it. His mother bought one of the first televisions in the neighborhood, and it became his second window to music, performance, and dreams bigger than Wales. He filled notebooks with drawings, sketched the street outside, and imagined stages he had never seen. When he was finally allowed to sing again, his voice had changed. The illness had deepened it, roughened it, and turned it into the powerful baritone that would one day stop rooms cold. School never understood him. Reading was difficult. Writing felt impossible. Teachers called him lazy, unaware he was struggling with dyslexia. By his early teens, he had already checked out emotionally. Music was the only place he felt capable. He sang hymns at school, at family gatherings, anywhere someone would listen. By 14, he was sneaking into pubs around Pontypridd, singing Hank Williams songs in dim corners for spare change. The crowds were rough, the rooms unforgiving, but they taught him how to command attention. At 16, he left school for good. He carried bricks as a laborer, sold vacuum cleaners door to door, glued belts in a rubber factory for barely $2 a week. At night, he sang. He slept a few hours, then repeated the cycle. That same year, life forced him into adulthood. He married his childhood sweetheart, Linda Trenchard, after she became pregnant. He was 17, she was 16. Their son, Mark Woodward, was born just months later. Dreams were replaced by survival. Everything changed in 1963, inside a youth club in Pontypridd, when a former boxer named Gordon Mills heard him sing. Mills knew instantly that this voice was too big to stay hidden. He became his manager, renamed him Tom Jones, and drove him to London in a battered van, promising a future beyond factory walls. Early recordings failed. Industry executives said his voice was too sexual, too bold. Then, in 1964, during a rushed studio session, Tom Jones added a spontaneous woo to a song called It's Not Unusual. That single moment changed everything. By 1965, the song was #1 in the UK and climbing the US charts. When Tom Jones appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, nearly 30 million Americans watched. His wild energy shocked conservative viewers and thrilled everyone else. He didn't slowly rise to fame, he exploded. Hits followed rapidly, including What's New, Pussycat and Green Green Grass of Home, a haunting song about a prisoner dreaming of freedom before execution. The emotion in his voice was so convincing that listeners believed the pain was real. By the late 1960s, Las Vegas had called, and he answered. Headlining the Flamingo Hotel, he earned more in a week than most performers made in a year. Women screamed, underwear flew onto the stage, and security had to escort him out after every show. Frank Sinatra watched and said, "That boy's got the devil in him." Tom Jones knew it too. He leaned into excess. Money poured in, and the parties never stopped. Nights blurred with Elvis Presley, champagne flowing, temptation everywhere, and the city pulsed around him as he lived fast, wild, and unstoppable. By the early 1970s, Tom Jones admitted to living without limits, sleeping with as many as 250 women a year, often using private backstage rooms designed solely for groupies. What felt like power on stage became poison at home. The excess hollowed out his marriage, and the damage reached its breaking point with his most infamous affair, Miss World Marjorie Wallace. When the relationship became public, she lost her crown, and the headlines turned brutal, feeding on every detail. The scandal followed him everywhere. When Linda Trenchard finally discovered the full truth, she struck Tom Jones so hard he was left bloodied and shaken. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply stood there and took it, knowing the blame was his. Then came the night that finally broke him. On October 27, 1975, inside the Las Vegas Hilton, Tom Jones walked on stage dressed in a sequined jumpsuit, confident, seasoned, and certain the crowd was still his. But the moment he introduced a new song, the mood shifted. The applause evaporated. Boos rose like a wave and swallowed the music whole. Drinks were hurled toward the stage. Shouts cut through the lights. Security rushed in, forming a wall around him as he was dragged away mid-performance. The crowd cheered as if they had won. Backstage, the humiliation hit harder than any bad review. Within days, Tom Jones canceled every show on his schedule and disappeared from public life for 6 long months, convinced his career and his identity were finished. What saved him wasn't denial, but reinvention. In the late 1980s, a boy from nowhere quietly reminded audiences that his voice still carried weight. Then came a move no one saw coming. Teaming up with the Art of Noise, he released a bold, synth-driven cover of Prince's Kiss. It exploded on MTV, reintroducing Tom Jones to a generation that never expected him to sound modern. The comeback proved he could evolve without begging for relevance, but personal damage followed close behind. A paternity scandal involving Jonathan Berkery became a public stain, one he denied for decades, leaving another wound that fame couldn't hide. Time softened what success never could. In 2016, Linda Trenchard, his wife of 59 years, died. She had endured everything and stayed. After her death, Tom Jones sold their Los Angeles mansion because the memories were unbearable and moved back to London, the city she had always wanted to call home. He spoke to her photographs in quiet rooms and kept performing for one simple reason: she asked him to. In 2022, he collapsed on stage, exhaustion and grief finally catching up to him. Now in his mid-80s, Sir Tom Jones lives quietly, mentoring young artists and performing only when his strength allows. He admits the truth he once avoided. Fame took pieces of him he can never get back. Yet he still sings, not for applause, but for a promise made by a sick boy staring out a window in Wales. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. Legends deserve to be remembered. Thanks for watching.